It's the sure sign of a good time. The just right taste of Bud Light. Here we go.
Welcome to this week's picks. I'm Tony Softli. This is Randy Karraker. And you know what, Randy, I got to ask you about Pete Carroll and John Snyder, the general manager. They made a lot of acquisitions. They made a lot of transitions the last 2 years. It's starting to pay off a little bit.
It really is. They're the third youngest team in the league now, and you're starting to see some things come together. When you make 300 transactions like that, and you have had to make a bunch of transactions, it's hard to get a team to gel. Well, now they've kind of settled down a little bit, and some of the injuries have gone by the wayside, and they're starting to get their players to play together. And continuity is such a big part of this sport, and you're starting to see those young players get coached up, get better for Seattle. And the other thing that you're starting to see is a level of confidence. You could tell in watching them in their game last Thursday night that they're just a confident group right now.
There's no question. We're going to get to Marshawn Lynch, but let's start out with this defense. Earl Thomas, Chancellor, the two safeties. You got Clemens coming off the edge. You've got some solid defensive play from the middle linebackers in that front. These guys are starting to get a little stingy on defense, better than they were the last time the Rams faced them.
Right, and the Rams' offensive line isn't as good, and it's amazing what a difference a guy like Red Bryant can make. And we talk about him a lot, and you don't hear his name a lot in terms of pass rush, but he shuts down a running game. And I have to believe when the Rams came out 5 wide in the game here in St. Louis, it was primarily because they didn't think they could run against that guy. Well, now you have a different offensive line. Now your offensive line is a complete shambles. I can't imagine that the Rams are going to be able to run this time. If they didn't think they could run last time, how are they going to be able to run this time?
Can they run? Are they going to pass? What are they going to do? When you look at the Seahawks offense, really when it comes down to it, Marshawn Lynch is the beast. I mean, this guy is running hard for his size. He's getting a lot of yards after contact. Where do you see him going? He's on, what, his 5th straight 100-yard game. What do you think the Rams' chances are this week against the Marshawn Lynch train?
It's going to be hard, although last week the Rams did pretty well against Frank Gore, but that is the focus. And when you watch Seattle, think about Adrian Peterson and the Vikings of the last couple of years. Darrell Bevell, their offensive coordinator, is treating Lynch right now the way Peterson was treated and utilized in Minnesota. And that offensive line, despite losses up front, this can happen. They are still a rugged, tough offensive line, as they showed against Philadelphia. And then Lynch does a lot by himself, too.
Sidney Rice out, Golden Tate in. I mean, passing game. Jackson's done a good job of not turning the ball over, managing the game. His accuracy really looked good last week. What are your chances, or what are the chances of those guys start clicking up between he and Tate?
I think that Golden Tate, I always liked him at Notre Dame, and I thought he was going to be a good player. And I was surprised that he didn't advance more quickly than he has. But now he's getting the opportunity, and they've got some receivers with Baldwin and Obamanu. They've got some guys, but Golden Tate now has a chance to start shining. And all it takes is a connection between he and Jackson. And if he becomes Jackson's guy, then everything can change. And he's a guy that, with the way the Rams are set up defensively, he can cause some problems. He can find his way into a hole because they're playing so much zone defense now, find a hole and get open. And then his run after the catch is tremendous.
No question. I would totally agree with all of that. Arizona, Patrick Peterson, 49ers, Ted Ginn, Seattle's Leon Washington. Here it goes again. Another good returner, both kickoff and punt return. Donnie Jones is hurting a little bit. That actually the plant foot is not the problem. It's actually the kicking foot. What do you think happens in this game?
Well, I always say I wouldn't
kick it away.
Yeah,
right?
That's what I say. Don't let him touch it, but he will. And with all of the injury problems that the Rams have, one of the problems that you run into is that special teams guys become regulars, and you have guys off the street that are playing special teams. That's where the Rams are right now. And Tom McMahon's job during the course of the week was to get those guys ready. Those guys that just walked off the street to be able to play special teams. You think it's easy, and obviously, as we've seen, it's not. Once again, I don't know why they keep kicking to these guys on punts. If I were Donnie Jones, I'd be kicking it out of bounds. On kickoffs, there's nothing you can do except take your shot. But I do have faith in Tom McMahon. I think that a lot of people are down on him. I think he's a very good special teams coach. I think this year he's a victim of circumstance.
Let's do our picks for the week. What do you think?
Well, I think the Rams, once again, because of what we talked about offensively, they're going to have trouble scoring. The game here in St. Louis was 24-7. And I think the Rams will have more difficulty scoring there. I would guess we'll see a similar type game, but 24-3 would be my guess.
Yeah, and I'm going to go 21-6 because I think they'll get close enough to kick a couple field goals. especially if Tom Brassetter's at the helm. Scoring some touchdowns is not going to be, positive or a chance to get that done. I don't know.
And maybe Nick Miller will give him some field position.
Well, there you go. Yeah, he's a little bit of a spark. Okay. Hey, thanks for tuning in to this week's picks. For Randy Karraker, I'm Tony Softli. Make sure you log on to 101sports.com for all the sports information. Hey, and don't forget TonySoftli.com as well. Take care.